Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today we are going over my top 5 crazy, absurd, insane, and just downright wonky ships. So these are ships that are fully in Wargaming's new style of ships, where there's some type of gimmick or insane thing about them, some type of characteristic that stands out far and above the norm at their tier, right? So these are those ships that we might call, gimmicky, one-trick ponies, whatever you want to call it, but Wargaming seems to be very much enjoying releasing these ships here recently. So let's go ahead and get going into the list. Coming in at number 5, we have the Tier 10 Dutch light cruiser, the Utrecht, which I have recently acquired. So I heard a lot about this ship, got a couple of replays sent into the channel, and from watching those replays, yeah, this ship is kind of bonkers. Now, forgive my background footage, this is, again, I think like my second or third game with the Utrecht, so my prediction with her long-range airstrikes is most certainly not really on point just yet. But that's, of course, the main draw of this ship, is that you have these 14-kilometer Dutch airstrikes. Not only do they go out to 14 kilometers, but if you merely slap the module on the Utrecht, you have a 36-second reload time per strike, which is just absurd in and of itself, let alone, of course, the fact that these bombs, they can pin 34 millimeters of armor, which is right over the 32 millimeter threshold. So while sure, there are some battleships and such that you can't pin with the Utrecht's airstrikes, you can get past that 32 millimeter threshold, so there's plenty at tier 10 and above where you can just farm them with these airstrikes. Again, every 36 seconds with just the module. So that means that in roughly the same time a battleship would take to reload its main battery guns, your airstrike is up and ready to go. That's much different than what we've seen in the past, where these airstrikes have a bit longer of a regeneration time. And this is, of course, without the special Dutch commander, where you can, oh man, just do some crazy things with the ship with that Dutch commander. So that's, I mean, think about that. Every 35 seconds, you can drop your planes on somebody. And keep in mind, these don't get you spotted, unlike firing your guns. So you can quite comfortably sit behind an island and just spam some poor soul from 14 kilometers away. What's really funny about not only the Utrecht, but the rest of the Dutch cruisers is that they were introduced and they were kind of touted as the ships that were supposed to be the counter to island camping ships, because the airstrikes forces the enemy ships to move. But you know what the Utrecht and the Golden Lou and all those Dutch cruisers are very good at? Island camping, using their airstrikes to simply bully other ships off of islands. So that's, of course, hilarious in and of itself. Now, the Utrecht herself, too, is also a pretty darn good light cruiser. You get a bunch of German 128mm guns with the German HE pins, so you get the 32mm base pin on those guns, so no need for IFHE or anything like that. And these are some pretty darn nice guns. Base range of 17 kilometers, which, in my opinion, means you don't really need to take the range mod. And plus, well, shooting past 17 kilometers with these guns, the ballistics are nice, but they're not that nice. So really, for 17 kilometers in, you're more than comfortable shooting with the Utrecht. And then, of course, you still have the AP, which is still very nice. So it can farm pretty much anything down with its HE, with its rate of fire, and the AP is excellent for when cruisers and such slip up and show you their broadside. You can absolutely murder them with these wonderful German 128mm guns on this D7 Provincian hull. So the ship in and of itself, like the ship itself is good. Like by itself, without the airstrikes, the ship is a pretty solid tier 10 light cruiser in my opinion. The airstrikes are just, of course, what pushes it over the edge. Now, she's at number 5 because she is the newest ship on this list, so there's still a very good chance that in the future she does catch the nerf hammer a little bit here, but as of right now, still, yes, an absolutely absurd ship, and a very, very good one at that. Alright, on our way down now to number 4, we find ourselves meeting the Tier 10 Japanese steel aircraft carrier, the Shinano. Man, the Shinano, this is a very interesting ship for a couple of reasons, but the big thing that turned most heads was the fact that the Shinano is the first ship to come equipped with AP skip bombers. That's right, if you thought the HE skip bombers were bad enough, these are so much worse for being on the receiving end of them. So, AP skip bombers, yeah, you know what AP shells and bombs tend to do when you catch someone broadside? Citadel damage. So imagine now a carrier, well, I imagine plenty of you that play at higher tier don't have to imagine it, you've lived it plenty enough. A carrier now that can, of course, just drive its planes around to the side of your ship, drop its AP skip bombers on your ship, and now, congratulations, you've eaten 3 citadels. And now you're down, 14k HP of citadel damage. Not just normal AP damage, or normal damage in general, citadel damage, which, unless you're one of the players in a ship with an improved heal, of course you cannot regenerate at nearly as much citadel damage as you can at normal damage. So that's wonderful. And then during the development of the Shinano, Wargaming went ahead and gave the bombs the ability to overmatch 32 millimeters of armor. So that's right, you can overmatch ships, plenty of tier 10 battleships and other ships in general, stern and bow, and theoretically get citadels from those angles because you can overmatch 32 millimeters of armor. So when this ship gets described as a flying Yamato, that's quite appropriate in more than one way. Not only is the Yamato class battleship converted to an aircraft carrier, but it can too overmatch 32 millimeters of armor. And that's just the AP skip bombers. That's, of course, its standout feature. But the torpedo bombers are also pretty good. You can do fairly consistently 17,000 damage with the torpedo bombers, and of course you get the tactical squadron of HE dive bombers with the smoke curtain consumable, where you can smoke up your team or even yourself if you get a little bit too close to the action with the Shinano. And of course, since that is a tactical squadron, that squadron never runs out of planes. You just get it every time it comes off cooldown. They're there. Doesn't matter how many planes you lose in the flight, be it 1, be it 2, be it all of them. It has the same regeneration time no matter what. So the Shinano, it's a very scary ship. She hasn't had any changes just yet. She's been out for, we're getting near the, 5-month mark? So if they would have been looking at nerfing her, I would think we would have heard something about it by now. So yeah, it's a still ship though, so it's quite difficult for the average Joe to acquire. But yeah, my god, this thing is just absurd with those AP skip bombers. You can bully the other carriers, most other carriers, if you're really good at getting the Shinano's skip bombers to Citadel every salvo. You can murder the other carrier in like 4 passes if you're really good at getting every skip bomb to Citadel. Yeah, the thing is just absolutely ridiculous. I can even have pretty darn good games in it, and I'm a terrible CV player. So that takes us down now to our number 3 slot, occupied by the tier 10 German cruiser, the Hildebrand. So the Hildebrand, the second CV-like thing on this list. So the Hildebrand, I mean, just look at it. It's pretty self-explanatory. All of us German enjoyers were waiting with bated breath to finally get the German tier 10 resource, steel, special, premium, whatever you want to call it, ship. And it was this. Not in a gear with another turret, or perhaps a Siegfried with another turret, or a really, really big Hindenburg, or a Hindenburg with a different gun configuration, I should say. I'm thinking about the Clausewitz there. This abomination. And a gear with a third turret ripped out and a flight deck welded to it. And, my god, this is quite the hybrid cruiser, because it's the first hybrid ship in game to have not 1 but 2 squadrons. You have a squadron of torpedo bombers with the German rocket torpedoes, and then you have a squad of, I believe, the Weser dive bombers, or the Parzival dive bombers, because why not? So this thing is quite different from other hybrids in the fact that where 98% of the other hybrids in game function as their main class first and a CV second, the Hildebrand really functions as a CV first and a cruiser second, like the Kearsarge. Kearsarge is a really easy example. Kearsarge is best played as an American battleship. Use your guns as your primary source of damage income, and then use the rocket planes to, supplement the rest of your income. The Hildebrand, you can park this thing on an island, just like a CV, and rely on the the torpedo bombers to do the bulk of your damage, because you have a little over a 1 minute regeneration rate with the torpedo bombers. And of course, if you run Lucians on your Hildebrand, once you get 33 hits with your munitions, you get a buff to that as well, to where it's literally like a second or two above a minute. And of course, with the nature of flying planes to the target and attacking the target, there's a very good chance by the time you get to the target and attack them, you've got maybe 5 seconds left on the regeneration time for your torpedo bombers. So now you just wait there for 5 seconds and just take off again. So that's fun. And again, this is a tactical squadron, so the torpedo bombers never run out. Once the timer's done counting down, you have a whole new set of planes ready to go. And of course, you have the dive bomber squadron as well, which is very good at murdering things like, well, anything that floats. You'll easily chunk battleships for like 12, 13, 14k, probably set a couple of fires. You'll outright just delete destroyers if you get lucky with the RNG that in regards to the bomb spread and such, and just absolutely bully other cruisers with these dive bombers. So thankfully, they do have a longer reload time, so there is that. And on top of everything else, the Hildebrand does have Gear's main battery guns, those 310mm guns, and quite a lot of secondary guns, although they are definitely not accurate, but there are a lot of them. You'd be surprised how many things you can get kills on with the secondary guns. But again, primarily this thing is a CV through and through. You just have main battery guns in case someone gets a little bit too cheeky and tries to get next to you. So yeah, this thing is absurd and outright bizarre, and unfortunately is the first German Tier 10 special cruiser, so we must live with that shame for the rest of our life at German mains. Alright, going on our way down now to number 2, we have the Tier 10 Premium American Destroyer, the Hull. So, the Hull is, if you can't tell, it is a destroyer with some very large guns. How large do you, I hear you asking? Well, it is in fact the Des Moines guns, those 203mm 8-inch guns, which is of course downright goofy. Now you might be thinking, oh man, this is some crackpot thing that Wargaming thought up. No, believe it or not, the U.S. Navy actually did this to the hull in real life. They strapped a 230mm turret and a 230mm gun onto the hull to see if, they could get away with it. And according to the testing, it actually worked pretty well. But they decided not to pursue the project any further, and it was abandoned after that. So, the Navy came up with this idea, not Wargaming. I know, shocking. But it's still absurd. A destroyer with cruiser guns, with heavy cruiser guns at that. And yes, it does have the Des Moines AP as well. So, if you are unlucky enough to find yourself in a cruiser or really anything, broadside onto a hull, and they got AP loaded, you are going to quickly find yourself getting sunk. Especially if you're in a cruiser. I mean, this thing can pin. I mean, again, it's Des Moines guns. Think about all the things that Des Moines the Des Moines can do to other cruisers and battleships and such when it has their broadsides. The hull can do that, albeit only with 3 guns, right? But it's still quite goofy being in a destroyer and bullying heavy cruisers and, well, cruisers in general, I should say, with the AP here. The HE is also pretty good because, again, it's Des Moines HE. The accuracy is far better than Des Moines. That's something that you don't really hear too much about with Des Moines, that, yeah, it's got a great reload on its guns, but the guns are definitely not that accurate. You just make up for it with the great reload. But the hull is quite accurate, so you can drain 3s on targets from just about any range with the hull if your aim is in fact good enough. Now the hull is a 4 Sherman class destroyer, so you do only have the 2 torpedo tubes per side, and they are those fixed, mounted launchers that were designed for guided torpedoes. Thankfully, they don't have that in game. But she also gets an improved heal to help her, bully other things out of existence. So that's cool, and an engine boost to boot as well. No smoke screen or anything like that. So if you're in a hull, best find a smoke buddy or div up with a smoke buddy, then you're really going to absolutely bully other ships out of existence, and she is great for that. So I would recommend picking up the hull. It's a great ship. It's a fun ship as well. It's not exactly outright busted like a lot of the other ships that we've talked about tonight, but definitely very strong, very strong. But she is a big target. She's not that fast without the engine boost, and again, she doesn't have a smoke or anything, so you are basically stuck playing it as an open, not really an open water gunboat, but you gotta hug some islands and stuff. Sometimes you do have to play as an open water gunboat, just because of the situation that you're in. But that's what keeps her more on the balanced side, but still very, very strong indeed. Speaking of balanced, our number 1 spot is occupied by none other than the Tier 10 Pan-American battleship, the Libertad. Man, these things are... The Pan-American battleships as a whole, well, I should say really the Los Andes and the Libertad, are outright cracked. And they did catch some nerfs here recently to their maneuverability, which was very much warranted in my opinion. We'll get to that in a second. But what are these things? Or I should say the Libertad. Libertad is a Tier 10 Chilean battleship that is supposed to be a super dreadnought. As you can tell with, well, the Goliath caliber secondary guns, it is definitely a design from, you know, that 1920s, 19-teens-ish super dreadnought design, fueled by cocaine era that we had back in the day, right? So it's a very interesting design, and of course, if you are a secondary brawler, the best secondary brawler in the game right now for being hyper aggressive with its secondaries, because yeah, you do have 20 Goliath caliber secondary guns. So you basically have a couple Goliaths bolted to the side of your ship with a base secondary range, well, I should say a built secondary range of 12.5 kilometers, but when you push the funny button, you can get your secondaries out to 15 kilometers, which is just absurd. It's one of the most absurd things I've ever seen in this game, seeing this thing's secondaries get out to 15 kilometers and absolutely murder ships at that range. Because again, you have those Goliath 234 caliber secondary guns, which can easily chunk enemy ships for like 2k a salvo when you've got the F button going, because the F button increases the penetration of the HE, the range of the secondary guns, and increases the damage that those shells do. So this thing can get close quarters experts from 15 kilometers away, because yeah. Now, obviously, while it is great to see a secondary ship be among the best ships in game at the moment, there's of course a little bit wrong with that, right? Having the ability to do that on top of course, well, used to be a incredibly maneuverable battleship. It did get the nerf hammer there with the speed that it bleeds in its turns. You used to be able to turn full tilt in the Libertad and still be pulling like 28 knots. That has been bumped back down to more appropriate levels now, thankfully. So that has definitely helped with, you know, the fact that this ship can run at you, get all these secondaries on you, get her 12 16-inch guns on you, and then just cha-cha slide out of there because it's got this stupidly high maneuverability. This thing really maneuvered like a cruiser before it caught these nerfs, so that is definitely much more appropriate. But the fact remains that simply by shooting at this thing, you fill up its funny button bar, the player taps F, and now you got 15 kilometer secondaries that will pretty much melt down anything within that range, especially if it's like a battleship, let alone a ship closer than that. If you're closer than 15 kilometers when a Libertad pops its funny button and you've got nowhere to go, you are... If you're not in like a full health battleship or you're in like a cruiser or something, you're going to leave either sunk or with most of your HP gone. That's how ridiculous these ships are. And of course, if you have Joaquin, the special commander for the Pan American line, you get 175 secondary and main battery gun hits. Now you get an even faster reload time on those guns, which is not really overly hard to do with Libertad, of course. So yeah, this is my number 1, just insane, absurd, downright wacky, goofy ship of recent patches here with World of Warships. So guys, that is the list for today's video. Let me know what you guys would include in this list. What would you remove from this list? Let me know that good stuff in the comments down below. Hope you guys had a wonderful Monday, wonderful rest of your week. If you did enjoy, make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. And hope to catch you guys in the next one.